Welcome to the Novi Lifestyle Podcast. I am your host, Jesse, and today we have a really interesting discussion with health and wellness. We all know that health is your wealth. And so today we're going to have a really good discussion with Jorge. Jorge is a marketing manager for a company that produces brain recording equipment and using deep brain stimulation in surgery. And he's also the owner of Neuro Gym, the first brain health in the US athletics gym for brain health. Yeah. So Jorge, first of all, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So just tell me a little bit about yourself and the whole neuroscience degree that you're working on.
Okay. So as you mentioned, I currently work in the brain space. I work for a company as a marketing manager to essentially promote what are called deep brain stimulation therapies.
Okay.
And the name is a little long, but it's exactly what it sounds like. Like we are providing electrical shocks deep inside someone's brain to provide therapy for movement disorders like Parkinson's disease, essential tremor, and dystonia. And I've been doing that for 5 years. And in those 5 years, I've become extremely fascinated by the brain, how quickly therapies that are applied to the brain can transform patients and people. And as a result, I went down a deep rabbit hole studying neuroscience. And I'm currently getting a master's in clinical neuroscience at the University of Florida. So currently, my life is all centered around the brain. I started the Neuro Gym, which, like you said, is the first brain health gym focused on athletics. So not necessarily like brain teasers or recovery or meditation, but actual physical exercise to improve brain function, mental health, and performance.
100%. So first of all, congratulations on all your achievements. And So one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is basically integrative health.
Right.
With integrative health, as many people might not know, but I am an integrative health practitioner, meaning we study neuropathy, Ayurvedic medicine, naturopathy. So a lot of these things are integrative in our health. In today's world, where we have kind of like the Western medicine, it's kind of different because it's by parts, right? You study if you have a certain disease, say, I don't know, in your gut, or if you have pain in the knee, they have certain specialized doctors only for the knee, right? But sometimes that knee problem isn't coming just from the knee; it can come from the foot, it can come from anywhere. So that's what I mean when we're talking about like integrative health or integrative medicine. So with that, I know you've studied different diseases or different positions where you've been, seeing patients. Mm-hmm. And I know that you worked with, you talked about athleticism, building muscle, and that in turn will help a lot of the brain function.
Right.
So what's something that you've seen in your practice that involves like integrative practices to help heal or make a person's life better?
Yeah, so I completely am on board with integrative health. In my experience in the healthcare industry, I see the same things. The doctors are very specialized practitioners. They only have a very narrow set of tools that they apply to their patients, whether that's prescription drugs, surgeries, or diagnostic testing. And they're not really looking for the root cause.
Exactly.
The root cause can be coming, like you said, from other parts of the area that are not necessarily showing dysfunction, but are dysfunctional. And why I chose neuroscience is because the brain is sort of this center for holistic health. It is it is an organ system, and it is not necessarily considering the entire human body as a whole, but the brain controls everything. It controls your awareness, your conscious experience, your emotions, your memories, your physiology, your metabolism, stress levels. Like everything can be brought back to the brain in some capacity. So I'm just like you. I like to promote integrative and holistic health with the people that I work with. And one of the best ways that you can build holistic health is through the basics, through exercise. Like you said, exercise is absolutely fundamental for brain health and for other parts of your body too, for, regulating glucose, your metabolism, regulating stress levels, inflammation. Those are all things that you can get from exercise, but you can also regulate them with sleep, with good nutrition, and surprisingly also with socializing.
Yeah.
So these are all things that are free, that can't necessarily be monetized, that people try to monetize, but they're tools that we can use with people and refocus them to integrate these habits into their lifestyle. And most of the time it's enough to fix, not necessarily cure, but like bring people back into homeostasis. Bring people back into a state that is conducive to healing and growth.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what I try to do with the Neuro Gym.
Yeah. So one thing that is that we'd like to point out, we can't actually say that we can cure disease, because we're not doctors. We're not doctors. But what we can do is, like you said, bring the body to an equilibrium state so that the body can heal itself, because that's what our bodies are meant to do, right?
Right.
One other thing that I did want to point out too is I wouldn't say that like conventional medicine and PCPs, they have their function. And that's mostly when it comes to like acute and emergency positions where people are brought in. That's where conventional medicine I would say strives. But when it comes to chronic illnesses or diseases, I think that's where people would go to a doctor or a PCP. And I would say go have a PCP, but also have a second opinion or an integrative health practitioner or someone who studies neuropathy or even Ayurvedic medicine. Why? Because a lot of the times these doctors, they get lab work or blood work, and it's not that they don't know how to read it. It's just that if it doesn't fall under a category where if they can't prescribe a pharmaceutical drug, they don't know what to do with that. And it's not their fault, but mainly it's because a lot of these doctors, they go to school and they don't get taught nutrition. Maybe they'll get 1 or 2 classes. But again, when they get these labs back, blood work, there is one where I have an example where they went to this PCP, they went to this doctor, right? And what they saw, and I'll probably upload this as well so that everybody can see it, is they saw that potassium levels was high, and so was the BUN or the BUN, which is the kidney function. And so I wouldn't say problem, but like if you ever go to the doctor and they say, let's wait on it or let's see what's going to happen, I would say that's a very dangerous position to put yourself in, right? Because again, these doctors are probably not, they can't exactly read the blood work where it should be. So in this example, this patient had high potassium and you can see that the kidney was overloading, right? And what they said was it's meaningless. But if you actually look at it, and they gave this patient an option, they were saying like, hey, don't eat too many bananas, don't eat too much potatoes or oranges, right? But that wasn't the problem. The problem is intracellular. And so what was happening is this patient was actually either overworking or dehydrating. So in the intracellular, in the cells, whenever they do their function, they excrete potassium. So that's what actually was happening. It wasn't that they were consuming too much potassium. It was that whether they were overworking or too much working out, right? That's what was happening. And so they were getting wrong information, and it wasn't conducive and it wasn't helpful to their position. So I say that just because just wanted to point out that there are um, there are practitioners who study this, and they are in a better position to help you when it comes to underlying root causes. Whenever a doctor can't tell you exactly what's going on, because that's what happens to a lot of people. We are both like usually the second option, just because everybody knows to go to a doctor, to go to a PCP. Mm-hmm. So I just want to quickly read some statistics, and I'll also put them up, and I just want to get your opinion on them. So some of these statistics, so we got 50 million people affected by autoimmune disease. 1 in 4 people die of cardiovascular disease. And then there's also 1 in 3 people are affected by high blood pressure. And then 13% of the population suffers with disabilities or debilitating migraines. And also this last one, and then there's more, but this last one that I just want to point out, anxiety and mood disorders affect over 40 million people. So there's no doubt that a lot of people in the United States, we know all this is going on, but we just don't have any answers as to why that's going on. So what would you say, or what is your opinion on a lot of these statistics?
I mean, to me, it's not surprising. I think currently the way that we live in modern capitalism or society is absolutely backwards to how we were designed to live. We weren't designed to be sitting in chairs for 8 hours a day, then sitting in another 2 hours of traffic, then going home, watching TV, eating, stuffing our faces with processed foods, being so stressed out at the end of the night that we can't sleep, scrolling through our phones. We are doing our bodies so much damage on a daily basis because we live absolutely opposite to how we're supposed to. We're supposed to be physically active, very physically active. As a matter of fact, we're supposed to be able to sleep without any issue, not taking melatonin. We're not supposed to have light at night like we do now with our screens and our tablets. We're not supposed to be eating calorie dense, nutrient deficient foods. And we are more isolated than ever. To me, this is the result of that. Of living absolute opposite to how we're supposed to. And really, like, the inflammation, the stress, the anxiety, the autoimmune diseases, these are all signals that your body is not functioning properly. Like you were saying earlier, our body does have a natural ability to heal. Doctors and some people may suggest that you don't have an ability to heal without prescription drugs or
that's crazy,
or other therapies, right? They try to steal us of that power, but ultimately, your body's giving you signals. Whether you choose to listen to them or put up with them is, it's up to you. But your body is extremely intelligent, and at least for me, I will always try to find the root cause of things. I am not someone that takes things at face value. Especially the word idiopathic, like, hey, you have this issue in your leg. This is what an orthopedic surgeon told me once. You have compartment syndrome in your anterior tibialis. It's idiopathic, which means we don't know why it happens. It just does.
Right.
But we do know that the one solution to this is surgery. We're going to cut your fascia. We're going to let your muscle expand. We're going to relieve the pressure. We know that works. But you can't tell me why I have that.
Yeah.
Things don't just happen.
Especially if they're prescribing something, a solution where they're saying there's no reason why I can tell you. I can't tell you why it's happening, but do this. I think that's crazy.
And that, to me, that's not satisfactory.
Yeah.
Because I believe that, things build up over time. Things don't just, in the flip of a switch, just change.
And I think that's another reason why, like, I know we both, I guess, like, prescribe to a certain kind of movement, which is like functional movement and calisthenics. I know you do calisthenics as well. And I think that's whenever anyone is looking for the what you were saying, like the root cause, you're gonna find either systems or ways. Like in this occasion, it would be like functional movement, like There's probably something going on in the anterior tibialis or in the calf where you would have to be able to move a certain way to be able to fix that. There's always a fix. You just have to find what the root cause is and then find a system or find either someone to tell you how it is that you're supposed to be moving or, to have a second opinion. Again, we're going back to that.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. As I started digging into the research, obviously there were some potential alternatives that I could try. I rested. I began stretching more. I would get this pain in my leg whenever I would start running. So I changed my running form. And then I also, I think, improved my ankle and my hip mobility through boxing. So I don't know what it was, but the combination of those things fixed my issue.
Yeah.
And I remember very clearly that the orthopedic surgeon tried to scare me and say, yeah, if you don't get the surgery, anything you try probably won't work for you. And I will never forget that. I will never forget that. And because of that, I am skeptical of every single doctor.
Yeah.
And I've seen it as well in my experience in the healthcare industry. It's a business.
Yeah. And I think, not to get too controversial, but like whenever the whole thing with I'll say like the COVID and the pandemic, honestly, like it only took me a week to understand and know like whatever they're going to do. I know they say this was in the beginning, like this was probably in December or January. It only took me a week of research to figure out that like this COVID thing wasn't like, I want to say it's not a big deal, but whatever they were going to come up in the future, I know it wasn't going to be the solution to what is going on. And so from that moment on, I knew that I wasn't going to take the vaccine. So it's the same way. Like you can find the answers to things. You just have to know where to look.
Yeah.
So I did want to give the people like tools to be able to find out, what if anyone is going through something, whether that's stress. I wouldn't get too much into the HPI axis as far as like stress and what goes on there. But there is one other finding that and I can put this finding up. I just wanted to put this out there. It says the average fetus is exposed to as many as 287 harmful chemicals that can cause birth defects, learning disabilities, and cancers. So if you think about that, we're bombarded by different toxic chemicals. We already talked about the food, even the air pollution. I know yesterday, like you can see the
fog,
the smoke, and whenever you were driving, whether that's downtown, anywhere in Houston, air pollution, even the chair that you're sitting on, like all these things have toxic chemicals. And so we talked a lot about the problems that's going on in society and things like that. So what are some ways or tools that we can figure out and like try and identify like, hey, this is a problem? Because I think that's the most problematic thing whenever you're unconscious or you don't know what the problem is. You're just going to keep doing it because you don't know that's a problem. So what would you say are some tools that you can like help identify those things?
That's a good question. If it's an emotional problem, typically there's some underlying cause. Like if you're chronically stressed, it's important to ask like, well, why am I stressed? What is drawing my attention consistently that is getting me all worked up? Mm-hmm. It takes some introspection, but once you've identified what your stressor is, you have either two options. You can eliminate the stressor or you can reframe your mindset around the stressor. And you'll be surprised how powerful your mind is at propagating stress. Like it's possible to be in two very similar situations and have two completely different emotional states just based on your perception and how you interpret.
Exactly. I think there was the mind can't tell the difference between an attack from a lion to like say a task that's being done or the task that has a deadline, right? Your mind is processing that as stress. You have the stress of a lion attacking you, and that could be the same kind of stress and chemicals that's going through your brain as just a simple task that has a deadline, right?
Right.
So it's your brain can't really tell the difference.
Your brain has a generic stress response, which means it acts the exact same way no matter what the stressor is. It doesn't matter if it's real. It doesn't matter if it's imaginary. It's a mechanism that's meant to protect you, to get you into high gear, but it's not something that you're supposed to permanently be staying in.
Exactly. Like imagine being attacked by a bear or a lion the whole day, right?
Or for months.
For months, yeah.
For months. It'll literally wear you down. And the way I like to think about it is, imagine having your computer on overdrive.
Yep.
How quickly is that going to wear and tear your computer? It's not going to live as long, right? It's not going to last as long. And the same thing happens with humans. When we experience chronic stress, it breaks down the system. Now, I wanted to get back to your question, because I think there's a lot of interesting things we can talk about. If it's an energy problem, so we're not talking about emotions, like you're feeling lethargic, you're not having motivation, maybe you feel depressed. There's a couple of things that could be at play there. Stress is obviously one of them. I think stress should always be something that you assess. But then there's also sleep. How's your sleep looking? Yeah. Because if you're not sleeping enough, you're not resting enough, which definitely is going to impact your energy. But then there's also hormonal components to it, right? Yep. For men, testosterone is a big one. And there's a lot of men out there that are probably feeling like crap, that are feeling down. And it's not because there's anything wrong with their life. It's because their testosterone is low.
Yep.
And that could be because low vitamin D. It could be because of those toxic chemicals that's converting testosterone to estrogen.
Yep. High cortisol at night.
High cortisol at night. Yep, exactly. If your sleep's affected, that's going to affect your testosterone. So there's, I recently got my testosterone levels tested through a company called Hone Health.
Okay.
And they charge about $45. They send you the kit. You prick your finger, you send the blood work there, and then they return you with your testosterone results. So, it's very doable and very accessible to check your hormone levels. Yep. And you don't need to go visit a primary care physician to check out what's going on inside of your body. And I've become very interested in this, especially as I approach 30.
Yep.
What do my markers look like? Exactly. How can I either supplement, change my lifestyle or my nutrition to better improve my longevity?
Yeah. So I would like to touch on that, because I had a similar experience, and I'll quickly talk about that. But imagine, so on the outside, right, you can see a person, right? They might be like baggy eyes, or they have like something on their skin. You can tell from the outside that person is going through something, right? Mm-hmm. But you can't really tell what's going on inside the body, right? So I think that's the perfect example that we can use, because what's the only way that we can see what's going on inside the body is doing these lab tests. And I've had I did have actually a similar experience where I also took my test. Now, let me preface this by saying that I'm pretty healthy. I think I'm a pretty healthy person, right? I work out almost every day. But I was having this problem where, my energy was kind of low, and it was hard for me to get up in the morning, right? And so I did the same thing. Now, this lab test that I took was from Z Labs, and it is a little bit pricey because they go through all your biomarkers: vitamin D, free T3, free T4, cortisol. And I'll actually upload my test results as well. But usually when we're talking about picograms, your testosterone level for a man under the age of 30 is supposed to be around 120 to 150, right? That's optimal for a man under 30 years or under, right? Mm-hmm. 20, 25, whatever. Your testosterone level should be around 120 to 150, right? I got my lab test back and it was at 39, right? So that's super low. And that's one of the reasons why I was feeling a little bit groggy and whatever. But then come to find out that also vitamin D was pretty low. So that's one of the things that you said, right? And then free T3 was optimal. But the other thing that I saw was cortisol level was very, where is it? Right here. Yep. So cortisol level was really high around the evening. So that was, if you have high cortisol, it's harder for you to fall asleep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that's going on. So with this just one test, I was able to see like, what's going inside the body, and that's one of the tools that a lot of people can use these days, because just by looking at you have no idea what's going on inside.
Right.
But with these tests, I was able to figure out vitamin D was low, cortisol. So I was getting stressed, right? And especially these days, I think a lot of people, they don't realize how stressed they are just because they're going, like we were talking about earlier, they're getting stressed throughout the whole day, 24/7, week after week, month after month. It just becomes kind of like a natural thing.
Right.
So one of the things that we can do for that is simply breathing and meditating. One thing that you talked about is socializing. I think a lot of people are really, they don't have that group that they can count on. If you look at blue zones, you see that their longevity is, they live for a long time. Why? Because they have that community, right? And so I just wanted to point out that there are tools that are not being used, and both of us, we have experience with that. So that's just kind of one thing that I just wanted to point out, because again, like us integrative health practitioners, we have access. We read these labs as a job, right? So these labs, not only did I read my own lab, and I was able to push my testosterone higher, and now I don't have the same problems that I had before. But I've been able to help other people look at their labs, and I'm able to tell them, hey, look, your vitamin D is low. You need to go out more. You need to sometimes we're just stuck in a building. We don't get the sun. So a lot of things like that can be helpful for people to, at least look at, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And going back to something that you said earlier about how the PCP will also check, do your blood work. They will not intervene until you hit a specific threshold that says, hey, your blood work is showing a significant problem.
Yep.
One of the ways that I plan on using blood work is to show trends, right? You took your baseline, you saw that things were low, make adjustments, then you take it again maybe 3 months later.
Yep.
And then you see how things have changed. But even if you're healthy, you can predict downtrends, or you can see downtrends that are pointing to worsening health over time. And the ranges that the PCP give you are not necessarily optimal ranges. So, they say, okay, your cholesterol is like not concerning right now. But if they came to an integrated health practitioner, you would clearly tell them, hey, your cholesterol is high and you're about to get to a serious problem.
Yeah.
we need to get you into an optimal range that is typically much, much lower than the thresholds that the PCP sets.
Exactly.
So it's important to work with people that focus on prevention, because we're trying to stop the chronic diseases.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to stop you from getting to that point where you need a lot of assistance, whether that's prescriptions, attention, support with other people. We don't want you to get there.
Exactly.
We want you to be as healthy as possible for as long as possible. And at least that's the mission that I have at the Neuro Gym.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think just to I guess finalize and to identify some solutions, right? I think people to be able to have a alternative, not just a PCP. Like, yes, you can have your primary physician that you can go to, but I think it's even more important today to be able to have that second opinion, to go to someone like you, to go to someone like me as a integrative health practitioner. We study this. We study the things that they actually leave out whenever these primary physicians go to school. And I think that's the most important thing that these people should be studying. But I mean, that gives us a position and a place to do what we love to do, So when it comes to, for example, detoxes, we talked a lot about toxins in the air and our foods. It's really important to be able to have someone to go through that, right? Have someone to be able to tell you the best way to work out. Because these days, not to throw shade or anything on bodybuilders, but like bodybuilding today, we're starting to see that is not a very healthy practice. When it comes to like physique, they only focus on physique. Like if you look at I don't know if you know this guy named Sam Sulek. Like it doesn't matter. Like he doesn't care what he puts into his body as long as he has that physique, so that he can go on stage and show off to the judges and get a prize. Not whatever he puts into his body doesn't matter, and that's a problem. So in conclusion, I think I just want to point out that our body has an innate power to heal itself. And people like me, people like you, we help people put their body into that position so that your body does the work, right? And we don't use those pharmaceutical drugs to do that because ultimately they can't, right? So what would you say is your I guess goal when it comes to how you help people?
Yeah, my goal is definitely to improve their brain health, because if we can improve how their brain is functioning, we can typically improve so many other things. The nervous system or the brain control the immune system. It's absolutely the origin and the driver of activation of stress. It's the ability, or it has the ability to help us self-regulate. So to remove stress from our bodies and from our minds. It regulates sleep. It regulates glucose metabolism. It controls the heart. There's so many things that the brain does. If we just focus there, we can get a lot of progress done. And also by focusing on the brain, usually what's good for the brain is good for the heart, and it's also good for the metabolism. So you're kind of hitting multiple points just by focusing on one thing. But ultimately, what I want people to do is just live healthier lifestyles, live more like we're meant to, which is to be in community, to be physically active, to eat good nutrition, to be able to sleep naturally without supplements, or feel alert and energetic without coffee first thing in the morning. Like we shouldn't need to rely on anything. Like our body should know how to do all of the basic functions to live and to carry out the tasks that we do on a daily basis. If you find yourself relying on something to even function on a basic level, that's a sign that something needs to change. That you're living unlike how you're supposed to. So at the Neuro Gym, I mean, it's primarily focused on physical fitness. But there's things that I do also with sleep. Like I have an Aura ring here, so we can track sleep. We can track your recovery and your heart rate variability, which is a good marker of stress. We do blood work. I can get people tested for testosterone levels if I suspect that that's an issue. And I'm also about to start recording from people's actual brain activity, so that it could tell me what emotional patterns people are suffering from, whether that's depression, anxiety, brain fog, ADHD. Those are all things that you can tell just based off the habits that your brain is firing in. We can detect those electrical signals. So it's like yourself. We have to look inside. We have to. Just you telling me subjectively is great. But oftentimes our subjective analysis of things is not the whole truth, or it's incorrect. So we have to get some hard metrics that we can reference that to, and then we create a plan to improve those different aspects of brain health.
I think it's very interesting because a lot of people don't even know. Like I know you said the Neuro Gym is like one of the first in the United States. And a lot of people aren't even aware of the certain things, even the technologies, what it can do, what it can read. You know, when it comes to the Aura ring, tracking your HRV, that's really important. Right. Your brain function. So I think it's really good for people to know and understand, what it is that you can offer people. So I'll be interested in probably, going over there and then getting my own brain scans, So I guess just to conclude, the main thing that I think we both promote is to put ourselves in an equilibrium where our bodies are able to function correctly. Because if it does, you shouldn't have any problems.
Exactly.
If you do have any problems as far as like emotional, anything that's going on in the joints, in the brain, whatever, there's a reason for that. Whether you're consuming something, all these toxins, our body functions to the point where we all should be healthy, right? So with that, I guess where can people find more about you or your gym? So whether that's like Instagram handles or things like that.
Yeah, so I'm very active on Instagram primarily. You can find me at Neuro Jorge Q or at the Neuro Gym. Those are both of my pages. And if you guys have any questions about the brain, about any of the topics we talked about today, you can DM me there. And I hope to hear from some of your audience members. I'd be lovely to connect with them.
Of course. Cool. Well, again, thank you, Jorge, for coming by and sharing a lot of things that you studied. And yeah, so thanks.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.
Of course.